The Joe Rogan Experience.
Train by day, Joe Rogan podcast by night, all day.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the JRE. I'm your host, Joe Rogan, and today we're diving into the dystopian world of the Hunger Games. Joining me is none other than Suzanne, the brilliant mind behind this blockbuster series. Suzanne, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you, Joe. It's great to be here and talk about a story that's resonated with so many people.
All right, let's get right into it. The Hunger Games is packed with intense moments. But one event that stands out for me is when Katniss volunteers for her sister Prim. That scene, wow, the raw emotion. It's like you can feel her heart breaking as she steps up. Can you talk us through creating that moment?
Absolutely. That moment is the catalyst for everything. Katniss volunteering symbolizes her love and protectiveness for Prim, and it sets the tone for her character. In a society as brutal as Panem, a selfless act like that is rare. I wanted readers to immediately connect with Katniss, to see her humanity amidst the inhumanity.
That makes sense, and it's interesting because it also establishes the stakes. The games aren't just about survival, they're personal. Speaking of stakes, let's talk about the tracker-jacker scene. When Katniss drops that nest on the career tributes, it's one of those jaw-drop moments. What inspired you to write something so intense?
The tracker-jacker scene serves two purposes. First, it's a reminder that the arena itself is a weapon. The Capitol's technology creates these horrifying creatures, and the tributes are at its mercy. Second, it's Katniss' resourcefulness on display. She's not just a skilled hunter, she's a strategist. She uses her environment to outwit her enemies, and it's a turning point where she shifts from being prey to being a predator.
It's pure survival instinct and kind of brutal. The hallucinations she suffers afterward add another layer, too. It's like you're saying, even when you win, you lose.
Exactly, Joe. That's a central theme in the Hunger Games. Victory in the arena always comes at a cost, whether it's physical, emotional, or psychological.
Speaking of victories and costs, let's dive into the ending, the double suicide bluff with the nightlock berries. That's some high-level chess. Katniss and Peeta basically flipped the Capitol's script and said, "We're not your pawns." What's the story behind that scene?
That moment was crucial because it's the ultimate rebellion. By threatening to eat the berries, they're refusing to play by the Capitol's rules. It's also a pivotal moment in Katniss and Peeta's relationship. Are they doing this for love, survival, or defiance? It's ambiguous, and that's intentional. The Capitol relies on control, and this act throws them off balance.
It's like psychological warfare, and you've got this theme of hope versus oppression running through the whole thing. Did you ever worry it would feel too heavy?
I did. But the heaviness is what makes the story impactful. The Hunger Games reflects real-world issues like inequality, war, and propaganda. By pushing the characters to their limits, readers see the cost of oppression and the power of hope.
That's why it's so gripping. One last question before we wrap up. What's the one thing you want readers to take away from the Hunger Games?
I'd say it's the idea that even in the darkest times, small acts of kindness and defiance can spark change. Katniss never set out to be a revolutionary, but her actions inspired others. It's a reminder that one person can make a difference. That's
powerful. Suzanne, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been an incredible conversation.
Thank you, Joe. I've enjoyed it.
And thank you to our listeners for tuning in to the Joe Rogan Experience. Remember, the odds may not always be in your favor, but you've got the power to rewrite the rules. Until next time, take care.
Joe Rogan podcast, check it out.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
Train by day, Joe Rogan podcast by night, all day. Joe Rogan podcast, check it out.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
Train by day, Joe Rogan podcast by night, all day.